This is HSC Option 2, Sport and Physical Activity in Australian Society. It's the second key idea. What is the relationship between sport and national and cultural identity? And this recording is focusing on the student learn to side of the syllabus and the very first question here, which I've highlighted in red. And that is critically examine how sport has been used to promote an Australian national and regional identity. And the examples the syllabus uses is the Olympic coverage and state of origin. Now, if you're talking about what dash points to use for this question, the main one here is the one I've highlighted in red on this side of the syllabus: national and regional identity through sporting achievements, and to a lesser extent, government funding the Australian Institute of Sport. Now, when you're asked in a question to critically examine an issue, in this case, how has sport been used to promote an Australian national and regional identity? When you critically examine, you're being asked to analyse both sides of the issue and add in your opinion. So for me, in this case, I think the question is asking you, what are the positives that Australia has its identity based around sport? And what are the negatives of that? And finally, this question would be wanting you to add in your opinion on the fact that Australia has based its identity around sport. Now, no doubt you are sick to the back teeth of me harping on in your opening paragraph for extended response questions about introducing the syllabus dash points that you're going to be talking about. I've written an opening paragraph here. I'm not going to read it out, but what I've done is I've highlighted the syllabus and highlighted and underlined the syllabus dash points that I'm going to write about in my response. What I've also done in this opening paragraph, I've introduced my opinion on it. I guess the critical analysis part of it in this last sentence, where I've actually said many people would argue that having a nation's identity based on sport has a negative effect on the country, and that arts or education should be more of a focus. So I've introduced my syllabus dash points, what I'm going to talk about, and also given an idea as to what my argument is going to be on Australia having its identity based around sport. So just to show that, there are my two syllabus dash points that I've bold and underlined, and also in green down the bottom here where I've introduced my idea of critically examining the issue. You should probably just pause the video at this point and just read my opening paragraph and see how I've attempted to set up this question. Okay, so for my second paragraph, I'm going to talk about the first syllabus dash point that I introduced in my very first paragraph here, which is national identity through sporting achievements. And what I would do, I would write about two examples where sporting success has given this nation a sense of identity. And the two examples I've come up here with is Cathy Freeman's 2000 Olympics, when she won gold medal in the 400 metres, and how when she won that race and she did her victory lap, she also draped herself in Australia's national flag and also the Aboriginal national flag. And that was an attempt by Cathy to try and unite Indigenous and non-Indigenous population together, and I think that was pretty successful. The other example that I'm going to write about is the America's Cup success in 1983, where America had previously held the trophy for well over 200 years. And the nation loved the underdog story here of Australia beating the Americans after that such a long time period. And of course, we got Bob Hawke's famous quote where he talked about any employer who sacked an employee for not turning up to work would be in fact a bum. So that's the Prime Minister of the day was just making it pretty clear of how important that victory was for Australians, and they should be enjoying it and celebrating it. Now, you could even finish this first paragraph with a bit of critical analysis, and you could talk about how the feel-good factor in sport is only temporary. It's not long-lasting. So when Australia won that America's Cup in 1983, I'm not quite sure that was something that we were still celebrating out on the streets even a few weeks later. Success passes and the feel-good factor is only temporary. And the other danger is that you've got is not all people actually identify with sport. In fact, there's a large percentage of the population who aren't sports obsessed in this country, and therefore you're missing a large percentage of the population in terms of trying to create an identity for the nation. Now, the second syllabus dash point, you could start talking about government funding. The key here is because Australia was so Australia has this obsession with sport and using it to create its identity. The 1976 Olympics, which was talked about in one of the other recordings, was a real disappointment for Australia. We won no gold medals at that Olympics, and the government decided that this wasn't good enough and that the AIS would come in, the Australian Institute of Sport, and they would invest millions of dollars into elite sport in the attempt to try and win more gold medals. Fast forward to 2000 and you'll see that the AIS was incredibly successful. That Australia went from being 30th in the medal tally at Montreal to right up to 5th spot when we hosted the Olympics in Sydney in the year 2000. At the most recent Olympics at London, it's been estimated that each gold medal cost the nation close to $16 million. Now, it's an incredible amount of money that the government spends on elite sport. And you could be asking yourself the question, is this a good use of money, of taxpayers' money? There could be a strong argument to make that that money could be better invested in what is known as grassroots sport, meaning put the money into sport for people who aren't at that elite level. So improve the playing fields in the local areas, put more sporting facilities into the local areas would be some examples of how you can improve grassroots sport. And finally, your third paragraph here, your opinion. So after critically analysing the issue, what's your opinion on sport being Australia's national identity? I think there are positives in having sport as part of the nation's fabric or identity. It can have some flow-on effects in terms of motivating people to participate in physical activity. What I mean by that is when an Australian ever enjoys sporting success, whether it be on the golf course or on the tennis courts, there's normally a flow-on effect from that. So when, for example, Adam Scott recently won the US Golf Masters, there would have been a spike in the number of people playing golf after that. It has a motivating effect on people to participate in physical activity, and that's a good thing. However, the focus on elite sport is the issue in this country. Investing that money into grassroots sports would bring more benefits to the nation. And finally, the other thing you could talk about in terms of being critically analysing this issue is it just a good thing to have sport as your nation's national identity? Could there be better things that you could focus on as a nation? I.e. Education, many would argue would be a far better thing to celebrate in this country and investing that money into a higher level of education for this country.